I was really intrigued by the finger painting because it was different and abstract to everything else that I was doing. I chose that medium, I guess, because I was inspired by Richard Hamilton. He used a similar technique with the whole paint and glass. My inspiration was the idea of leaving a mark on the world, so I wanted to capture how kids leave their mark on the world through finger painting, and then thought of a different way of presenting that, I guess.
My artwork's based on what's called the Enneagram, which is a kind of drawing upon some psychology stuff. It's kind of a personality typing. Branches and the trunks of the trees are made out of this kind of malleable metal wiring, and then I used origami to be like leaves and decorations on that. Like the paper is something that's gonna kind of disintegrate and go away, whereas the metal is kind of something more permanent, but they both have origins in nature, and I think sometimes we forget that metal is quite a natural phenomenon as well. I'm always looking at the beauty of humanity and using art as a way to make the world more beautiful.
The inspiration for my artwork was my cultures. So I'm Filipino, Indigenous, Portuguese and Irish. My painting's made from canvases and house paint, and I decided to do house paint over acrylic paint. The message behind my artwork was to like who you are, no matter what culture you are. It doesn't matter. I'm a mixture of cultures and I like who I am.
The inspiration for my artwork isn't really an object, but more of my emotions in a way. The reason I chose the medium watercolor is because watercolor is one of the main mediums I like to use, and the message behind my artwork is that even though during the year you might have some tough times, but if you take it day by day, if you say, it will get better.
With digital, I could use a lot of techniques that you wouldn't really be able to do easily with traditional mediums. So I've kind of developed an interest for cultures outside of what I'm familiar with. So this has basically been derived from Japanese and other Eastern Asian cultures. I've wanted to create my own twist on that to make it more fantasy. I wanted to, I guess, explore my own world, and I wanted others to see that as well.
I always have a really good interest in fashion and designing. I did the printing with liner. My color inspiration was my country's flag, Nepalese flag, which has like a lot of meaning, and inspiration from a traditional famous hand-woven fabric called Dhaka. Moreover, I was researching about this organization in NT working for the welfare of indigenous people like Injalak Arts, MacPigous. I wanted to explore that fabric making technique that they use, so I chose this medium.
So the two people I painted in my painting was my two best friends that I've known for 15 plus years. So I used oil paints for my piece, mainly because I painted on acetate, which is like a clear plastic, and needed something very pigmented and, thick, be able to not dry as fast, so I have time to work on it. The name is persona, so it's about how people kind of can take one part of somebody and we can kind of all perceive it differently and make the persona of that person. But for that person, that thing that we originally chose might have a completely different meaning for them.
I struggled with stress from a young age. My artwork was based on my stress relief I developed over the years. My mediums are multiple items. Pencil case, books, pencils, apple. They were all related to school because that's what stressed me the most. I didn't really have a message. It was just something I wanted to show that identifies me.
I found that there was, at Pride events, a lack of representation for specific identities. So I wanted to create something that would, fill those gaps and provide representation for those specific groups. And I chose watercolors because I really like working with that medium, and the colors stand out well. For the GIF, the inspiration for that was playing Dungeons & Dragons with my friends, and specific experiences that we had was a digital medium as I use Photoshop. As far as the message goes, I think it's that when you are together with your friends, you can create your own stories within like a small world that only you as friends are exposed to. And I think it's just pretty incredible. For the frog scene, my inspiration for that was the environment around my house during the wet season. When it would rain a lot, we would get a lot of frogs and they would turn up in the strangest places. I chose that medium because I had heard about zines and I wanted to make one first of all. The message there is just, I guess, to be like kind to animals you find around your house. They're just guests and they're passing through, and help them along where you can.
As I wanted to take up fashion designing in future, so I thought it would give me a good experience in designing and making a garment, and I wanted to represent the Indian women's ethnic wear and the design traditions of India, and so if I took up textiles, it would be better to express my motive. I featured the national bird and national bird through prints on it, and for most of my inspirations I looked at some of the Indian designers over there.
I took a lot of inspiration off the internet. So I originally was a sort of a blacksmith, and then there's a guy on YouTube called Alex Steele. He's a professional blacksmith, his art's amazing. And I looked at historical pieces, especially the British naval cutlasses, which were stolen by pirates and used. And I was like, I want to give that a try. I chose the medium because it's definitely unique. It's not a copy of one type of sword. It's a lot of different amalgamations of different ethnicities of swords, because a lot of German, French, they all had their different styles. And I took what I found was the best pieces of it and brought it into my own sword, which is my own piece.
I chose digital art since it's much more convenient to just draw digitally. I'm from Indonesia and I don't really know much about my own heritage, so doing this was able to expand my current knowledge. I looked into different children illustration books for reference and inspiration. I wanted to display their personalities through their character designs, which I think I have done well.
I decided that I wanted my last year of schooling, and especially art, to be a really interesting one, to do something that I wasn't prepared for and really try something new. The inspiration was kind of my own ironic and very cynical depictions of love throughout life. I always hated romance, novels, movies. It was all cliche and cheesy. So I thought, let's make a cynical anti-love wedding piece and cover it in breakup stories and really push the idea of anti-love. But it turned out really well, and I'm happy that I did something different.
I've always been building things with my hands, and I've always loved making things. So when I went to school and when I could in the years, I did woodworking. Wood that I used in my project was the African mahogany wood that I got from a local miller that got a lot of it from the cyclone that Darwin recently had. And I was able to get some of that wood, basically turning something that after the disaster, something broken, and was able to turn into something useful. My inspiration for my work was just the amount of videos I've seen online of the cool river tables, the epoxy going in it, things like that. And I just wanted to see if I could do it myself.
I won't lie, it was quite difficult for me.
Lots of late nights.
It was incredibly stressful.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
So I got chucked in the deep end. Well, I chucked myself in the deep end.
I was told to prepare. Didn't realise I was not fully prepared.
As most other students, I struggled with deadlines quite often.
It took me weeks to just make the pattern.
It's not the easy A subject that most people think it is.
You've got to put in the effort to get out the good result.
It was great. I loved it. I enjoyed every bit of it.
I'm really happy that I actually get to put my artwork out there and be like, hey, look, I made this, and people actually get to see it.
It was a great time, and I'm never gonna forget what I did there.
Oh, yes, okay, yes.
Let's see if I can remember this. It's really good. I wrote it this morning.
I would say if someone's thinking about taking art, they should definitely go for it.
Try and get it done 3 weeks earlier, because you're going to be still finishing 2 weeks after the due date.
Procrastination is not your friend at all.
Talk to your teachers, because they're there to help you.
My piece of advice would be to not let yourself be restricted by what you see in other people's work.
Don't feel pressured, don't feel awkward that what you're doing might be a little cringy or something like that.
And choose something that you love doing.
Don't have to make everything perfect.
You can always try new things. You can always realize, hey, they didn't work out perfectly, but you've done it. You've tried, and you've now made this thing that you never thought you could.
As long as you're doing your best, it doesn't really matter what grades reflect. If you learned something, that's what school's for.
it's a confusing stage of life. Like, you're not gonna know anything right now. So like, yeah, just go wild, I guess.